Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 4. I am Uyai Anyakan, coming to you live from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuran. Let's take a look at the headlines. Presidency says security architecture under reformation. States warn federal government not to tamper with Paris Club loan funds. Plus, New Zealand sanctions Russian banks. Details of this and more in a moment. We begin our news this afternoon with a report that formation. The presidency gave the assurance in a statement, pointing to the success recorded in the fight against insurgency in the Northeast. The presidency said the escalation of terrorist activities in the Northwest would also be brought under control soon. Reports say there is ongoing re-equipment and reorganization of the security and intelligence forces as part of measures to aid in the fight against terrorism. Away from that, after successfully restoring life back to the National Stadium, Abuja, the federal government is set to do the same for the Surulere National Stadium in Lagos. Minister of Sports Sunday Dare on Monday says the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration is committed to bringing back the lost glory of the sports arena. Dare stressed that the ongoing rehabilitation was part of his public-private partnership model on infrastructures across the country. Meanwhile, federal government has declared its interest to collaborate with non-profit organizations, state water agencies, river basins, and other stakeholders and development partners to consolidate efforts in mitigating the pressures from exploitation, contamination, and climate change on groundwater. Minister of Water Resources Suleiman Adamu made the call in Abuja. Adamu, who was represented by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Water, Domestication and Use for Agricultural and Industrial Supplies, said 60% of the Nigerian population depend primarily on groundwater as major drinking source, while over 70% of the people living in the suburbs majorly depend on it for survival. In another development, Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Sylvia, has said that the federal government is due to complete the multi-billion-dollar Brass liquefied natural gas project that had been abandoned over 17 years ago. Sylvia, who spoke during an inspection of the project site in Tuon Bras, Bayelsa State, stated that the government was looking for investors to revive the stalled gas project. The minister, who inspected the Bras LNG site with the management of the Greenville LNG, an interested investor in the Bras project, said the federal government desires to complete the project because of the manifold economic benefits it will bring to the nation. Meanwhile, Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC), the unions in the tertiary institutions in the country. NLC President Ayuba Waba made the call in the 2022 Easter message to workers and Nigerians. According to him, millions of Nigerian university students, especially those attending public citadels of higher learning, are celebrating Easter outside the precincts of their campuses. Waba therefore called on the federal government to honor its agreement to ensure students return to schools. In another development, Nigeria and Mauritius have retained their seats to serve for another 4 years in the UN Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights (CESCR) from 2023 to 2026. Reports say candidates from the two countries have been re-elected to occupy the two remaining vacant positions for Africa in CESCR. CESCR is the body of 18 independent experts that monitors implementation of the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights by its state parties. Elsewhere, Chinese government's embassies has denied backing the 2023 presidential ambition of Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi. The Chinese government, who spoke through its embassy in Abuja, described reports claiming it backed Amechi's presidential ambition as fake news. Refuting such reports, the embassy, which appealed to Nigerians to discard fabricated reports, noted that they have respect for Nigeria's democratic political system and are confident on the capacity of the Nigerian government and people to organize and conduct a successful general election. Away from that, the 36 states of the Federation have warned the federal government not to tamper with funds accruing to them and the 774 local government councils under the guise of satisfying an alleged $418 million London and Paris club loan refund related judgment debts. Speaking through the body of Attorney Generals of the Federation, the state said should the federal government proceed to make any such deduction, it will be acting illegally and in contempt of their appeal challenging the judgment. The governors gave the warning in a letter as part of their response to a November 11, 2021 letter from the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, advertising the commencement of the deduction for the liquidation of the alleged judgment debts. Elsewhere, the Lagos State Police Command is ready to engage the assistance of International Criminal Police Organization on investigations into alleged sexual abuse of a female student of Christian schools by her male colleagues. The police spokesman Benjamin Hundeyin said the command was taking cognizance of the cybercrime angle to the whole episode and would not hesitate to enlist the support of Interpol should the need arise. Hundeyin said the force was determined to get to the root of the incident, which allegedly occurred in March 2022, when the school took the students to Dubai to participate in the World School Games. He said for a holistic and unbiased investigation, the command would be working with relevant ministries, departments, agencies, and non-governmental organizations on the case. Away from that, National Board for Technical Education, NBTE, has decried the inadequate funding of polytechnics by the federal and state governments. The Technical Education Regulatory Agency said the inadequate funding of polytechnics was responsible for the lack of adequate technical workforce in the country. The North Central Coordinator for NBTE, Musa Koko, stated this in his presentation at a workshop organized by the Federal Polytechnic Offa, Kwara State. In another development, retirees and workers of the Nigerian Railway Corporation (NRC) have kicked against plans by the management of to eject them from their quarters, despite a court order restraining it from doing so. They said the management had succeeded in ejecting over 200 people from the quarters in the past, with a promise to demolish and build a new structure, but abused the process by selling the properties. The workers, who spoke with newsmen in Kano on the current attempt to eject them from the remaining 5 blocks, called on the federal government, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), as well as Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission (ICPC) to wade in by investigating the continuous sale of their quarters. In Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa has declared a state of national disaster in South Africa. This comes a week after terrible floods reportedly left at least 443 people dead in the Durban area of the East Coast. South Africa's cabinet, in special session, decided to declare a state of national disaster. Reports say some 10,000 troops have been deployed to the affected areas to assist the overwhelmed relief effort.
It is clear that there are other areas of the country that need emergency intervention as well. Cabinet met in a special session last night and decided to declare a national state of disaster. It is clear that there are other areas of the country that
the refugees, mostly survivors of illegal immigration attempts by sea to Europe, have been staging a sit-in front of the office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in the Tunisian capital, Tunis, since Saturday to complain verbal and physical abuse in Tunisia. Meanwhile, statistics from the Tunisian Forum for Economic and Social Rights say the Tunisian Coast Guard intercepted 25,657 migrants attempting to cross the Mediterranean in 2021, almost double the number from the previous year. Still to come in the news. Ronaldo to miss Liverpool versus Man United clash after Son's death. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying tuned. On the foreign scene, ex-Kremlin official and Gazprom Bank vice president has been found dead with a gun in his hand in his luxury Moscow apartment beside bodies of his wife and 13-year-old daughter. Reports say the bodies were found by the couple's adult daughter Anastasia, noting that all three victims had gunshot wounds. Meanwhile, Moscow police has said they are keeping an open mind on the 14th floor massacre as the shooting was carried out with an FF's pistol, adding that Anastasia had gone to the apartment when she failed to contact her family. Away from that, New Zealand has announced new sanctions on Russian banks and financial institutions as a response to Moscow's war in Ukraine. In a statement, Foreign Minister Nania Mohuta said her country was imposing sanctions on 18 entities, including Russia's central bank, sovereign wealth fund, and largest financial institutions in the country. Reports say the sanctions were designed to impose an economic and political cost, specifically targeting organizations that finance the continued invasion of Ukraine. Meanwhile, protesters in Sri Lanka took to the streets yesterday as the country grappled with a fuel price hike and shortage of petrol and diesel. Monday's protests came as the biggest fuel price hike was put in place, raising diesel prices by 64% and petrol by 33% per litre. Police authorities have said protests has been launched in several towns, blocking off public transport, including train services, and disrupting travel to schools and offices. Still on the foreign scene, the UK is set to send high-tech armored vehicles with anti-aircraft missiles to take on Russian jets and helicopters. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson will supply the besieged country the 13-ton vehicles, which only fit 3 people to crew them. According to reports, a Ukrainian delegation was shown the weapons in action at Salisbury Plain 2 weeks ago. Experts say the addition of the Stormer to the war was the best kit sent by Ukrainian allies. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan have been invited to appear on the Buckingham Palace balcony during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. As the Prince broke his silence on his secret olive branch meeting with the elderly monarch last week, the Duke of Sussex said it was great to see his 96-year-old grandmother during a quick stop-off at Windsor Castle, where he also met his father, Prince Charles. On our business news, the International Monetary Fund has warned the debt accumulated by businesses and individuals worldwide could slow economic recoveries from the pandemic crisis. It could be recalled that governments had taken exceptional measures to support their economies as COVID-19 spread 2 years ago, including rolling out debt repayment suspensions or offering large-scale loans. The Washington-based crisis lender, however, said the programs resulted in higher debt levels for some sectors, including those most disrupted by the virus, like tourism and restaurants, as well as low-income households. It added that for struggling sectors, governments could offer aid to prevent bankruptcies or provide incentives for restructuring rather than liquidation. Also on business, as controversy continues to surround the introduction of 15% National Automobile Commission levy imposed on imported used vehicles by the Nigerian Customs Service, car dealers have threatened to close their stores this week. The Nigerian Customs Service had recently introduced a 15% National Automobile Commission levy on used imported vehicles, a decision which didn't go down well with clearing agents in the country's maritime sector. In a quick response, the service, in a statement by the National Public Relations Officer, Timi Bombodi, said the move was in compliance with the Economic Community of West Africa Common External Tariff. In health, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control said it recorded an increase in reported cases of Lassa fever in the past week across the country. The agency revealed that 24 new cases of the virus were recorded in Bauchi, Ondo, Edo, Ebonyi, Gombe, and Kogi states. The NCDC noted that 6 additional deaths were also recorded, bringing the number of deaths from the virus since the outbreak this year to 138. Reportedly, a case fatality rate of 19.3%, which is lower than the CFR in the same period in the year 2021. In sports, Manchester United have confirmed that Cristiano Ronaldo will not play against Liverpool today. This follows the death of one of his newborn twins on Monday. According to the club statement, family was more important than everything and that Ronaldo was supporting his loved ones at this immensely difficult time. Recall that Ronaldo announced the news saying their baby boy had passed away in a post on social media, while confirming the birth of his baby girl. Still in sports, Super Eagles are set to discover their 2023 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying foes when their draw for the final rounds of qualification takes place in Johannesburg, South Africa today. The West African football powerhouse, who crashed out of the 2022 AFCON in Cameroon in the round of 16 and recently missed out on featuring at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, are seeded in the pot 1 along with the 12 highest ranked African countries from the latest FIFA rankings released on March 31st. A total of 48 countries, including host Ivory Coast, are eligible to feature in the final stage of the qualifier scheduled to begin in June across the continent. On entertainment news, there is tight security in Abo, Mbiase, Imo State, currently as Nollywood stars, friends, kinsmen, and women gather at actress Rita Dominic's country home for her traditional marriage rites. Rita and her husband Fidelis Onozike arrived at her family compound to kickstart the traditional marriage. Meanwhile, the whole place was condoned by security operatives, including the army, police, and local vigilante groups. Reports say many Nollywood actresses were already in Owerri, including Joke Sylvia, Uche Jumbo, Ketenshaw, and Iniedo. Still on entertainment, American rapper and actor Kellen Walker has been found guilty of multiple rapes committed between 2013 and 2018. According to Rolling Stone, the actor, who starred in the 2018 Superfly reboot, was convicted of raping 7 victims, 3 of whom were 16-year-old aspiring models. Reports say the actor broke down in tears when he was read the split verdict from the Los Angeles jury. Recall that Walker was accused of sexual assault in 2021 by over 30 teens and young women who alleged that he used his fame and promised to introduce them to Drake and other celebrities. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, STVNg. You have been watching Spectrum News at 4. I am Uyai Anyekan. Thanks for watching and do enjoy the rest of your evening.